All right, good afternoon, everyone. Again, for those of you who came on time and for those of you who just came to class, hello again and hello. So let's start the class. Today, we're going to start with the second unit of this course. And in terms of that, let me just go and start projecting because I'm going to start using the PowerPoint as, you know, uh, a blackboard also because the way that I like to present with these visual aids is I also write on top of them. And since we're talking about unit number 2, it's more about talking about language. And of course, the English conversation language. And this is about analyzing the structure of the English language, analyzing the structure. And because of that, the first class that we're going to take about that unit will be this one, which will be called language structure. Through this unit, we will be talking about the structure and also the way that we speak. This class will be referring on the way that we speak. And this is a different structure comparing to Spanish. We have different ways of pronouncing a vowel and also a consonant. And that's why we need to study this in English because it's way super different than from Spanish. In Spanish, we have the same way as you study the ABC, is the way that you pronounce them. But in English, you know that there are different ways. And sometimes, in some parts, you have several different ways of pronouncing a vowel or a consonant. So let's go and start with that because I'm talking too much, but if I don't show you, then you cannot understand what I'm telling you. Okay. So right now, we need to consider these things. For any language, there is a universal saying, there is a structure. There is a structure that should be dynamic, and there is a structure that on the language, it makes it complex. And in that complexity is what we want you to work with and think about it not as complex as a problem, but complex as something that you can learn and that you can master it. And if you pay attention to it, if you study this part of the language, the structure, then the language is not going to be that hard, or it's going to be the opposite. It's going to be easy for you. But again, you need to study this part. So let's go and try to understand what every language has. This is about what every language, including our language, Spanish. And that's what we're going to call phonemes. Every language, it doesn't matter if it's English, French, Mandarin, Chinese Mandarin, or if it is English or Spanish. They use finite set of sounds, gestures. Sounds are produced with your mouth, but not just with the outside part of your mouth. You need to use your tongue, you need to use your feet, you need to make a connection on the way that you move your mouth in order to have those sounds. So that's why there is a finite set, finite, that's the good news, because it's countable. You can count the set of sounds, gestures that are combined to form a meaningful elements of words, and we call them phonemes. All grammars contain rules. Every language has rules for the formation of words and sentences of definite types, kind, and similar grammatical categories. For example, the nouns and the verbs. These are part of the structures, categories, part of grammar. Every language has a way of referring to past time, the ability to negate, and ways to form questions, issue commands, and so on, which means and more and more. Semantic universal, such as male or female, are found in every language in the whole world. Every language has a differentiation in semantics, and this is an example for male or female. Every language has an identification for those. So that's a good thing, that you are going to be learning in any language about structure. And that's another thing that differentiates one language from the other, that every language has its own structure and its own rules. And yeah, maybe you're one of those people that believe that grammar is a pain, but thanks to grammar, we can understand the language. So you need to stop considering that the grammar is a pain. You just need to study the language. And then grammar is not your enemy, it's your friend. So considering that, let's keep on studying about these differences. Now, if we talk about the structure of the language being dynamic, which in reality it is, then we can understand that languages change over time. They keep adding different words. They add things to the vocabulary. They keep adding. When I say they, is the dynamic of the people and the way that the world is moving and changing. And that's why some sounds keep getting added to the language. So a language changes over time. Some sounds that were used hundreds of years ago, they're no longer in use because a language keeps evolving. The pronunciation then, the phonology, meaning the way it sounds, changes. For example, for English, we no longer pronounce the K in night. We don't say knight, we say night. It's the same for the words known or know. You don't say know or knowing. You don't mention that. You said no, to know, at night. Or, for example, the W in right. The way it sounds doesn't include the W. You don't mention right. Of course not. You say right, to right. But consciously knowing that the way that you write that word includes a W. So that's what phonology means in terms of evolving. It keeps changing. Semantics change over time, and some words even disappear completely, erased. Words expand their meaning as with geek and mouse. A mouse is no longer just an animal, it's also a device that you use for your computer, isn't it? It is. So they keep expanding meaning, definition, and especially in English. I find that this language, the English language, has so little amount of words and so many definitions for one word, for two words. It's like one word just needs to be within the context. That's why last week I kept on telling you, you need to remember the context, the meaning of the context. If you don't know the meaning of one word, but if you look around the context, the surroundings, the environment of where that word is being used, then it has that meaning that is according to the context. And it can have like 5, 6, and sometimes like 10 different meanings, just one word. So that's why the understanding of this dynamic part of the language, it's kind of hard. And it's kind of what adds to the complexity. But like I'm saying, if you study the language, if you study the vocabulary, there shouldn't be any problem with it. Some languages change more than others. So that will depend on the culture, what's going on with the world to make it change. And some languages are even adapting some words from different languages. For example, thanks to technology, so many languages have adopted words that have their roots in the English language. And they just keep on using them because it's part of it and it becomes part of the local language. It is how it is. But it's also complex. Yes, it's dynamic, but it's also complex. It is normal for humans, no matter their native language, to be able to communicate a wide range of concepts, both concrete and abstract. All languages are equally complex, capable of expressing a wide range of ideas, and expandable to include new words for new concepts. As you can see, thanks to globalization and technology, and nowadays, the internet connection that it is within every country at the same time, the complexity of one language has increased because of the dynamicity of the language. It keeps on moving and it keeps on adding some more words, new concepts. Even though language is complicated, every healthy child, regardless of racial, geographical, social, or economic heritage, is capable of learning any language to which he or she is exposed. So here's the thing with language. You are no child, you are no children anymore. You're not a child, you're 21, 22, 23 years old by now. Maybe older, I don't know. Yeah. So it's not the same as when you were 2, 3, 4 years old. If you put a child, if you immerse a child of 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, 6, even 10 years old, if you put that child into a new language, into a context, an environment full of that new language, they absorbed all of the context and they can learn the language very fast and easy. So what's the difference with us being older? The complexity is a little more complex, actually, but that's because we already have one language that dominates ourselves. And the more you grow, the more you mature, then you have more paradigms in your brain. You have the tendency to plug your brain and to tell your brain to know, to keep understanding in your native language and stop learning the other language. So in terms of learning, we do have the capacity as adults. The difference with a kid is that they don't have the prejudice of learning a different language, which you do have as it is right now. I do have. And it's a problem. It makes the language even more complex. But as we said, it doesn't matter the race or the geographically where you're living or what you're doing. If you are open to learn the language, you can learn it. Because the capacity is in here. And it has been demonstrated that it doesn't matter on your age. But the difference with a child, like I told you, the children, they don't have the prejudice. But we do. So let's just open our minds. And talking about the complexity of a language, in terms of structure, we can talk about the phonology, which is the sounds, the patterns of a language. And this week and next week, we're going to be talking about the sounds and also the roots of the language. Like we said last week, I told you that we were going to start the roots, the prefixes, and suffixes. But this week and the following week, we're going to be talking about the sound. Next week, we're going to talk, well, this week, we're going to cover a little bit, and probably next week, for the stress of the word, which in Spanish will be understood as the accentuation of a word, but it's a little different in English because you don't have a point or something that points where you're supposed to accentuate a word. So you need to learn the structure of how you stressed a word. But in English, there is also a different kind of stress. You stressed a word in a sentence where you want to put the importance of the sentence. If you're speaking, then you are supposed to be stressing the word. Whereas if you just speak in just one sound, monotonous, you are doing it wrong, incorrect. There's a mistake. So there should be a stress in the sentence in different words, or probably at least one word. But there's also this stress on a syllable. We're gonna learn that. Then, if we're talking about phonology, the sound patterns of the language, then phonology is the study of the sound system of a language. Phonetics is a science of the production, reception, analysis, transcription, and classification of speech sounds, and also the relation of speech sounds to the total language process. Okay, you have the reference there, and at the end you can find it. So in terms of that, if we're going to hear the phonetics of the song, of the phonetics of the sound of the words, I have a question here. If you can understand by listening to these words, can you tell that some words are English and some are not? Here's the question. Is it English? Which of the following are possible English words? And which would be impossible because they do not fit the English sound system? Let's keep a try. Let's try. Let's see the first word. Mnemonic. Is that an English word? I'm not talking about definitions here. I'm not talking about the meaning of the words. I'm talking about through sounds, through what you're listening, through what you think that it might sound. Is it possible to be an English word?
Yes, I think so.
Catalogo?
I think it's not.
Not.
Tacitic?
I think that is in Spanish.
Ah, so maybe one of them is in Spanish, but not in English. Ah. So let me just give you the key. Some of them are English and some of them are not. It's kind of half and half. We have two words in English and two words that they're not even words. Which one do you think that from those mnemonic, share or catalogo, I don't know, Ndel, tacitic, which ones do you think are English and which one do you think they're not? Any ideas? Sarai, you said that you thought that one of them is not English or probably Spanish.
Well, I think the second one is not English, but I think the first one and the third one is in English.
Okay, that's a good guess. I'm not telling you the answer yet. Let us see. Okay.
The second one and the fourth one could be English words.
Okay, so now
But
you
there's
have
different kind of ways, like the second word, we could pronounce it cheatalog and not chetalog.
But you could also say catalog.
And the fourth one, we could pronounce the A like A or A.
So you're thinking about like tasitic or tacitic, and then, but you could also consider the I sound.
Yeah, because in English words, most of the grammar is kind of like that.
Yes, you're correct. And let me just show you there. Sigmonic and Ndel, they contain non-English like consonant clusters. There's no way that in English we can have, so that's the key in here. Oh, I stopped sharing. Let me just go back to it. So there's no way that we can have in English these two things together, the T and the G at the same time, in here, this combination over here, STGM, it doesn't create the sound. And also ND, it doesn't go that way. They contain non-English like consonant clusters. So there's no way that we can have a syllable or a cluster one next to the other. And like you said, Anael, you were right in considering this. This is a normal cluster or a part of a syllable. It can give you different sounds. You could say chi, or you could say she, you could say ke, but it does exist. Logo, it's part of the English language also. And over here, taste or task, it's possible. And it's possible the way that the consonants and the vowels are one next to the other. Whereas, like we said, this is not a way that you will see in English. Yes, you were correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
So as another example here, products are often brought to the market with names that use phonemic enhancement. That they make a brand name with more enhancement in the sound. For example, the gasoline company and product Esso was renamed as Exxon in 1973, in part because test marketing showed that people responded more strongly to the look and sound of the double X than the double S. So it's not really a word, but it's a brand that is included in the language because it's part of the culture. ExxonMobil. So it existed as Esso, and probably you can still see the name of the brand in very old cities. I remember seeing one of those, and it's because it was used to be like that. And this remind me the part of the Mexican brand as Oxxo, and it's because it's strong. You see, it's very similar. It gives a strong phoneme. It gives a stronger sound, right? So Exxon, it's stronger than Esso. Yes. So you still can see the name of the brand in some old cities, like I told you, but that brand is part of Exxon. So since we've been talking about the sounds, we're going to talk about phonemes. Phonemes are the individual sounds in language, the distinctive units that make a difference when sounds distinguish words. For example, in English, the initial consonant sounds P and B are the only difference between between the words park and bark. Park and bark, and that's our phoneme. So it does sound different, and the word has almost the same structure. But the sound from the phoneme, it gives the big difference. Park and bark. One is stronger, P, P, and the other is simpler, B, B, B. You see, you make a little more sound and more use of your mouth with B. And the way that you push the air from all of your diaphragm, from even from your lungs, the way that you're pushing the air out is different from P to B. The number of phonemes in a language ranges between 20 and 50. That's a good news. Between 20 and 50. You know what? The complexity of the Mandarin, the Chinese Mandarin language, that what I heard is that they only have 2 different sounds, and they make more than thousands of different characters and words just with 2 different sounds. It's crazy. But Yeah, the normal, the most common languages, they have about 20 and 50 different phonemes. English has a high average count from 34 to 45, depending on the dialect. What's the dialect? Well, the dialect will depend on the place where you are hearing the language. It changes the phonemes, yes. It changes. So that's one of the things that pronunciation, it's hard thanks to phonemes. But also, and the most complex part of it is because of the dialect. So that's what I'm gonna tell you here something, which is true. If you hear that somebody tells you that you have a strong accent or that you have a Mexican accent, who cares? It's not really about the accent, it's about communicating. So if someone doesn't understand a word the way that you're pronouncing it, is because probably in that area of the world, the phoneme, it's different. So you need to try changing it. Like the example that Anael was telling us before, probably the A is pronounced A or A. So it will depend on the place, the dialect that they are using. So if you want to communicate and the other person is not understanding you and is asking you or is saying, pardon, can you repeat? You just need to repeat it with a different phoneme and you're done. You are going to keep learning the language as much as you practice and as much open that you are to keep trying. This is about that. This is about, yes, studying, but also about trying with experiencing the different phonemes. For example, Hawaiian, in contrast, has one of the lowest phoneme counts with 8 consonants and 10 vowels. The dialect from Hawaii, they have a simple phoneme count with 8 consonants and 10 vowels. What are you talking about 10 vowels? Don't you tell me that it's 5 vowels? Yes, yes. The ABCs have 5 vowels. The difference here is the sounds that every vowel can get. And that makes a different phoneme. But like what we're saying, what we're taking a look here, in Hawaii, apparently it's easier to speak than in other places around the world. How many countries or areas in the world speak English? Several. Several countries, they have English as the native language. They have adopted English as their national or native language. You have Australia, you have South Africa, you have other than just considering England and United States, there is more countries around the world that speak English as one of their official languages. And that's what I'm saying. It will depend on the area that you're speaking, the kind or the amount of phonemes that are going to be used. And for example, India, they do have English as their second language official because they have like 30 or more different languages, not just dialect languages inside the country. And that's why to be able to communicate from one area to the other, they do speak English. But their sounds, their phonemes are so different from the rest of the world. They do speak very different English, but they do speak English. It's just that the dialect that they use is so similar to the language that is their mother language, which is different. But once you are immersed with them, people from India, and you keep speaking and listening to them, you can actually understand. And it's the same language, it's English. English from Australia is different. English from Canada is different. But if we're talking here, we are Mexicans, and if we talk about English from the United States, the phonemes of the English from the West Coast to the East Coast is different. But one of the hardest dialects that gives different phonemes is the Southern English, the English that is spoken from Mississippi, Alabama, the state of Alabama, the state of Georgia, the state of South Carolina, is way hard. But once you start speaking with people that with those dialects, you do get the phonemes from them, and you end up speaking the same way as they speak. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that your accent, what people call your accent, it's not a problem. It's actually something that gives you a part of your character, and it's part of your person, your persona, the way that you can describe yourself. So having an accent is not wrong. It's not bad. Okay. So let's go
Teacher,
back
I
to
have
this.
a question.
Yes, go ahead.
When I used to go to school in the United States, the teachers used to tell us that the letter Y was sometimes considered like a vowel in some states or countries. Could it be because of the phonemes?
Because on the way that you can pronounce it, because of you're talking about this, right? The Y. Yeah, because
the Y.
sometimes it might be considered as a phoneme. It might be considered as a vowel because sometimes it has the sound, just the simple sound as this vowel. In English also. Yes, that's truth. That's truth. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So I'm showing you here the phonemes in English, vowels and consonants. And as you can see, we have examples. So I'm going to go ahead with some, and I'm going to ask you also to participate with this phoneme. So you're going to have to participate as you can. So let's see. With the vowels, for example, we have the capital A. So you need to identify this because you're going to find this when you look up on a dictionary, you have seen these signs. So this is to tell you about the phoneme. When you take a look at dictionaries, all of the dictionary have this. And it's been great. They have been telling you how to pronounce the word, but you just didn't know about the phonemes. So you didn't know how to pronounce them. So when you see the capital A, you are referring to the sound, the actual sound of the ABCs. A. For example, wake, which is A. Pain, A. It's not fine, it's A, pain. Tray. But if you see the lowercase a, it has the sound as the Spanish one, the ah. So then it sounds pat, pat. You see the difference? When you have the capital E, you have the sound as it comes in the ABCs, E. The examples, be, beat, flee. Whereas if you see the lowercase e, the sound is e. For us, Spanish speakers, there is a problem with these phonemes because you have the tendency to use these two, the sounds as Spanish. But here is the thing, there is not just that sound. It does exist, but exists the other sound. So how do you know how to pronounce them? Well, there are different ways of you to learn more about this. You can practice listening to everything that you listen. For example, well, not just, okay, probably a conversation with your family is not going to happen that way. But if you're going to listen to music, you need to listen to music in English. If you're going to watch a movie, you need to watch a movie that has English. if you're going to make a phone call to someone, maybe make a phone call in English. But I'm trying to tell you here that you need to practice and you need to set your environment to the English language. So if you are going to read something that is not related to school, read something in English. Then also keep using a dictionary, but an English dictionary, not a translation, an English. And then keep looking for this, keep looking for the vowels and the different of the sounds of the vowels. Look for the consonants and the different of the sounds for the consonant. So the way for you to understand this even more is about practicing and practicing that way. Read and listen. And of course, after you read and listen, speak, pronounce them. Because there's no other way that you're going to learn this unless that you practice with it. You need to practice, so you need to speak. You need to say it out loud with volume, not in your mind, because only in your mind you cannot listen to your own self and practice. So practice it for real. So if I said for I, the sound of I, we have examples as I, which is for me, tie, and by, like the example that Anael gave us. Where does the Y sound as an I? So many times. But it depends on where the Y is at the word. For example, we have a different sound for here, for the Y in here. It's the sound of the lowercase I. Analysis. Pyramid. The example over here is boy. You have the sound of an I. And then we're gonna think of more examples of the other sound that it gives, that the Y gives. Okay, so the other sound of the I, which is E, is if, tin. Good news for Spanish speakers. We do have and we do know the sound for the lowercase vowel. That's for the sound. For example, here on O, which has the sound of O, pot. But with the other sound as O, no, mode, stone. The sound that comes from the ABCs. U or U. U. Futile. Tuesday. The U, which is closer to A, this is not really the sound as we have it with A, E. With U, we have a different sound as A, top, dumb. How do you learn about this? Again, you need to keep practicing. Double O is a strong way of using either the sound of O or O. How do you know about that? Depending on the clusters that you have that are forming between vowels and consonants. For example, two is a strong U. And then ru, shu, but. Whereas lowercase double O, it will have a sound as, or it's referred to the sound as U. Should, put. That's the sound of the double lowercase O. The sound that OI gives is oi, oi. for toil, boy, oi. The sound for OU, O, O, like pod, ho, mouse, O. AW, it's kind of like similar to the sound of O, but closer to O, so, call, hot. AR gives a sound as R, like far, and so on. So I'm going to invite you to try with the consonants now, the sound of the consonants, and then I'm going to invite you to participate. So if you want to participate with B, please give us the sound of B in here. B, B, B. It's actually a sound of B, B. Does anyone wants to try?
Beat? Oh, it's already.
Bet. The next one? Habit. B. That's the sound of B. 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 Bet, habit, rub. Rub. The sound is B. 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 That's the sound that the consonant gives you there. B. Bet, habit, rub. B. Are you understanding what I'm saying? So next one will be, if anyone wants to participate, the sound of K that actually gives K, K, K. That's the sound that you need to make when you're using the K, K. Anyone? Cake, K, cake, naked, luck. You see the sound K, cake, cake, naked, luck. The sound for D, D, D. That's the sound D. It's not D, it's D. Do, sudden, wed. But for this, for D, for the sound of D, you need to put your tongue on top of it. And that's how you make the sound of D, D, do, do, sudden, wed. You play with your tongue and you put it on top. F, the sound of F is not F, it's V, V. Far, upper, half, phony, V, V. The sound for G is actually G, but a softer G, G. Gone, digger, beg, G. Remember that because this is confusing for Spanish speaker, you have the tendency to say H. No, it doesn't sound H. No, it sounds G, G. Softer, G. Gone, digger, bag. For H, most of the time you do pronounce H in English, and it has the stronger sound that you will usually, a Spanish speaker, will give to the G, which is H, H, H. H. Head, behold, H. It comes from back of your mouth, from the back in here. For the J, it's a simple sound as J, J, J. Like jam, tragic, stage, let, J. That's the sound, J. The L sound is more to L, L, which goes to light, willow, well. The M sound goes to You close your mouth. Mine, dim. You close your two lips, put them together. The sound for N It's not N, it's N. N. Known, fun, lean. N. The sound for P is not P, it's P. P. Push. Tapo. Step. Hopefully you are, since you are not participating that much, I hope that you are doing this at the same time as I'm doing it here. Following me and practicing. If you don't practice it at the same time, even if your family members that are next to you think that you are getting crazy, it doesn't matter. You're learning a language. You're practicing a language. KW, it's a sound for Q. Q, quiet. That's the sound for Q. The R is the sound for R. Simple one, not R. No, that doesn't count in English. It doesn't, it's not the sound of R. No, it's R. Rope, Larry, bar, inside your mouth. It's like you're like eating the R. That's the way of saying it. I'm thinking that way when you're eating the sound of it. So we have the S, and the sound is si, hustle, miss. The sound for T is t, tip, after, but, to. The sound for B is v. It's different from B. B is only with your lips, but V requires your teeth to go with your lower lip. That sound, even if it sounds crazy, is vet, cover, gave. It does a different sound from B. So you need to keep on trying to practice this one, of course, because it's different. W, it gives you the sound of like, wow, ooh, ooh, ooh. For example, walk away. It's sort of like close to you on how it sounds sometimes for you. Ooh. KS or GZ will give the sound as close to like the sound of an X. It sounds like that. Sucks, Xing. So it's the sound of the X. The sound of the Y, but again, like the examples where the Y doesn't work as the vowel, it sounds J, J, J. Sort of like closer to Spanish when you use the J, 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 your, yet. Z, the sound for Z, that's closer to the ABCs actually. Z, Z. It's different from S, from Z. This is a stronger one. Z. Zip, noisy, buzz. SH is actually the sound that we love in Sonora, in Chihuahua, in the northern part of Mexico. We have the sound of shh. Yeah, that's a sound that we kind of love. But in Spanish, that sound comes from CH. And this in English sounds more like what we're seeing here. Like a simple one. Shop. It's a simpler sh. Whereas the SH is like shh. Like I'm telling you, we people from the northern part of Mexico, especially in Sonora and Chihuahua, we do have that strong for sh. So SH is the stronger sound. CH is softer. So SH, shout. Lotion, wash is the stronger one. Shh, shh, yes. We love that sound. Or I think that it's something that is very common in the northern part of Mexico. HW, actually, the H doesn't really have a sound when you have that sound. HW is, for example, what? Is where the H doesn't give you any phoneme. The CH, like I told you, is kind of like similar to SH, but softer. In terms of not saying, instead of not saying sh, you say sh. Lower, sharp, pitch. Take a look at the difference, sharp and shout. Sharp, shout. One is stronger. Get it? TH. How do you make the sound for TH? You use the two set of teeth, your top teeth and your lower teeth, and you put your tongue in between them. Can you see it? Yes, you have to stick out your tongue and make that sound. I know it's crazy, but if you don't try it, you're not gonna get it. Then examples, thing, south side, north, north. Are you seeing my mouth? Are you taking a look on how I'm using the thing? South side, north. And that's the only way that you're going to get the phoneme, practicing it. You don't know how to do it when I'm telling you here. There are, even in Google, if you look for the phonemes for certain on how to pronounce some words, they can show you little faces on how you should put your tongue, your lips, your teeth, and how you can get that sound. It's really cool. And you have this other sound a little, well, you can probably find this Greek letter also, the delta lowercase, or the opposite of E, that is upside down. And you have kind of like a little softer than the simple TH, like think, like the one that I was showing you, think, and then that. So it's closer to, that's why I was thinking that it's a delta, the delta from the Greek language, because it's closer to the sound of a D. So it's way softer than the TH, as when you put your tongue in between your teeth. This one is more like the. Your tongue even has to go in between your teeth, but it produces a sound closer to D, the. Are you seeing my tongue? The. It's a different sound. That, mother, tooth. Different sound from thing, that. That's what I'm saying. It's close to a sound of D. The sound that we identify with NG, 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 ng. For example, wing, running, ng. And the other and last phoneme, but not least, or not least of importance, the H, it gives a sound as J, or J, J, J. For example, genre, collision, pleasure, J, J. A little complicated, but as more as you practice, you're gonna get these sound. Okay, let's keep moving because we need to keep a look with the examples and how we use this. So English phonemes are not found in other languages. This is only for the English language. And yes, like I was telling you, okay, I was comparing some of the sounds with Spanish, but the difference with phonemes is that we identify them in this way. Some phonemes in English do not exist in certain other languages. English learners from these backgrounds might experience difficulty in hearing and producing these sounds. We, in Spanish, producing the sound like supposed to be like DJ and J or SH or TH or Z. But I was comparing something like SH, like shh, like the CH for us, but it's different. So how do we learn the way that we're supposed to pronounce this? When you read, when you listen, when you speak, consciously doing this, remembering the phoneme. And eventually you are going to learn all of them. But again, practice. Immersing yourselves into the language. Change the environment of your language. Like I'm telling you, if you're going to listen to music, don't lose your time listening to something that is just in Spanish. Listen to music in English. If you're going to watch a movie that is mainly made in English, why do you change the language to Spanish? Watch it in English. If you're going to use subtitles, use the subtitles in English. And you need to pay attention on your hearing abilities. You need to connect your hearing abilities to what you learn on the phonemes and listen to them and catch them and practice. But this takes time and practice, and it takes your conscience to do it. Why do you need to start doing it? Your decision. It's just about that. You need to decide to start immersing yourself in the language. So English learners, oral comprehension and pronunciation may be affected with English words when English words contain phonemes that are unfamiliar to them. The schwa is the sound of the E in the phrase the hut. The hut. It's often difficult for Spanish speakers because Spanish vowels rarely alter their sound quality in unaccented syllables. Yeah, and that's why you have the tendency, I'm telling you, when you're reading English, you have the tendency to read them and to pronounce them and give them the sound as Spanish, as the ABCs is supposed to sound, and it's not that. You need to understand that there is the phonemes. And the phonemes are made for you to make different words. A diaphragm, a pair of letters used to write one sound or a combination of sounds that does not correspond to the written letters combined, may confuse the English learner who attempts to separate the diaphragm into two separate phonemes, but it's one. The concept of diphthong, which that exists also in Spanish, defined as a vowel blend with two adjacent vowels, each of which is sounded, may transfer in principle from another language, although the diphthongs may differ from language to language. Mandarin has diphthongs like sure, as does Spanish, I. And it exists. So we just need to understand that it's different from every language. And if it is English, you're not supposed to read English as Spanish. You're supposed to read English as English. Phonemic sequences are the permissible ways in which phonemes can be combined in a language. Languages also have permissible places for these sequences. Initial at the beginning of the word, medial between initial and final position, and final at the end of a word, or in a combination of these positions or those positions, yes. And like I'm saying, if you take a look at an English dictionary, just English, every word has the combination of phonemes on how to pronounce the word. The correct way, you're supposed to have the correct way. But remember that we mentioned that there are dialects, depending on the place of the world that you are, the pronunciation might differ a little bit. In English, SPR, the phoneme of SPR as in spring, and D as in handle, and KT as in pulp, or going back to the sound of spr as in spring, and as in handle, and k as a talk are permissible phonemic sequences, but neither those sounds can be used initially. Those sounds like n, it cannot go back to the beginning of the word. And that's one of the parts of the questions when you were asked before if ndel was a word in English, and it's not, because you never have this combination of sound nd at the beginning of a word. English allows, and in all three positions, speak, respect, grasp, but restricts to only one. The word optic splits the phonemes into two syllables. The word pterodactyl has a silent P. So you also have those splits of the sound. For example, here at the end, the word pterodactyl has a silent P. Again, how are you going to learn all of this? Practice then. I keep on telling you this, practice then. So you need to be aware of this. In order to give or to bring awareness to this, we are going to start practicing the phonemes. Phonemic awareness. As children learn language, they acquire phonological awareness in the process of separating the oral sound stream they encounter into syllables and words. So we need to go back to how we learned to speak to understand phonemes. And we are going to behave as children. And I'm going to give you some examples and a little game as games for children, because we need to start practicing that way. If you are learning and learning and learning more, then you can move on as adults. Literacy development builds on this ability, helping young readers connect sounds to written symbols. And this comes from Burns, Griffin, and Snow. It was published in 1999. Phonemic awareness is the ability to use the sound symbol connection to separate sentences into words and words into syllables in order to hear, identify, and manipulate the individual phonemes within spoken words. This is not easy task. It's not an easy task. With 10 to 20 phonemes articulated per second in normal speech. In the normal speech speed, of course, because the way that I'm speaking right now is kind of slower than the normal way of speaking. And I do speak slow so that you can understand me even better. Phonemic awareness tasks help students hear and isolate individual phonemes. This is the basis of phonics instruction. So there is going to be a very simple homework that talks about this. I'm going to show you what that will be. I'm going to show you an example here. There is a chart to start practicing the pronunciation, and I'll give you, yes, children assignments for phoneme, where you need to decide where the phoneme goes and how it should be pronounced. So who needs phonemic awareness training? I would say that everyone. Yeah, actually everyone. Research tells that the adult non-readers, like you, non-readers, people who doesn't read, have almost no phonemic awareness. And adult beginning readers also have phonemic awareness deficiencies. Even intermediate ABE readers may have somewhat limited phonemic awareness. Research also suggests that adults at the lowest literacy levels may profit from direct instruction to build phonemic awareness. So people who have less education, they may understand faster about the phoneme. Learners at the next level, those with some independent reading ability, may also benefit. So, like I said, when I saw this question, who needs phonemic awareness training? Everyone. We all need training, even though we we might be good readers, good listeners, good practitioners, we still can benefit from practicing, from having training for these phonemes. On the other hand, the research of phonemic awareness deficiencies may not apply to ESL adults. ESL means English as a second language, which is the one for us, who can't read English. You shouldn't assume that these non-readers have phonemic awareness deficiencies. Other factors, including a limited English vocabulary, are more likely. So, like it says here, I added a link that if you click on it, I mean, I can click on it, you can't because you can only watch, but let's click on it and let's move to that chart. It's a chart of phonemes that we can go and practice the sound. As I was just reading through the list before, let's go and just practice the little sound of it. So I'm just going to stop sharing this and I'm gonna go and share that web page, which is an interactive phonemes chart or phonemic chart. So let me just share this web page with you. I'm gonna start sharing it here. Oops, I need to select it correctly. And share. So when you click on that one, you're gonna go and get directed to this web page. And as you can see, we have the same phonemes that I show you on a list. And I had some examples on that list on a table that I put on one of the slides. You can go and interact with this phonemic chart. For example, when you see the capital I, as we saw before, and that's where we find some specific sound on vowels, then if you click on here, you also have an example there, like sheep. You click on it and you can hear it. Oh, I need to share these sounds. Let me go back to it and share the sounds on here. Share the sound through Zoom, through the video conference. So you should be able to hear the sound that I'm pushing here.
Eh,
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 eh.
eh.
Can you hear the sound? Let me know if you can hear it.
Yes,
Yes,
we
you
hear
can
it.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. So, for example, if we go to one of the consonants, the one that I told you that it sounds like D, like delta,
The,
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 the.
the.
So you click on it and then you pronounce it and you hear yourself and then keep practicing. For example, if we go to this combination of an E and then the upside down E next to it,
Air,
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 air.
air.
Example, hair, hair,
Hair,
hair,
hair, air,
air.
air,
And then you click on the example,
hair.
you see? Very simple, but I'm going to strongly recommend that you go and take a look at this chart and you interact with this and you practice.
F,
F,
f. Fly,
fly,
f.
fa,
Fly.
T,
T,
ta,
t,
ta,
t.
T,
T, t,
T,
t.
the V,
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 v, v. Video,
video.
v.
And the difference with the B,
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 b. Boat, b,
B.
b. Boat.
And go on and keep practicing this. I hope that you do take this. This is from this web page that is really cool, and it's called the English Club. You can learn a lot from them. I'm just introducing you to this web page, like I'm telling you, English Club. They have a lot of information that will be helpful for you if you want to keep practicing. A lot of information for grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation. Some practices for listening, for speaking, for reading. So this is one of the web pages that are really cool and it's called a club, which is go and try it. Okay, hopefully you can take the time and go and practice some more with this. So I'm going back to my slides, and I'm gonna have a game, so don't worry, we have more to practice today. So here it is. Let's play. We're gonna go and click to this game, and it's a place, like I was telling you, we're gonna start like little kids, like children, because we need to go and leave that prejudice that we cannot learn and try to understand that we need to immerse ourselves into the language starting as little kids. So again, if you click on this web page, so I'm gonna go ahead and I already click on it, so I already open it. Stop sharing it, and I'm gonna start sharing the other web page, which is for a game. So choosing right now the game for pronunciation, for trying to pronounce the I click on one of them and I wasn't selecting it. So these games are about sounds, and you actually practice vocabulary, simple vocabulary, but with the sound, of course. And so we have, for example, blending sound spelling, prefix and suffix fish game, but we're gonna study prefix and suffixes later on. Vowel pairs, cat food spelling, blend spelling. So let's, you just need to choose one of them. There's so many games that they have. This webpage is called Phonics Games. So it's basically games that are for sound. And this comes from the webpage that is called education.com. I'm also recommending this one. Like I said, yes, it might sound that it is for little kids, but it helps you practice. So who cares if it looks like it is for little kids? You can just practice it. So let's just choose anyone. I'm just gonna choose the first game and I'm gonna click on it. And I'm gonna go ahead and start. I'm gonna see the instructions, of course. It says build bridges by building words in this silly game that tests your kindergartner. You see, it's for little kids, 4 to 5 years old. So you're supposed to have the knowledge for this. Little for you kindergartners, knowledge of using blends in spelling. As your child comes across each broken bridge in blending sounds spelling, they'll need to spell a word using letter blocks. Each word has a colorful illustration to help, and a narrator sounds out each letter as your child spells, emphasizing letter sound relationship. So let's play. Join education, blah, blah, blah. No, I don't want to join. I'm just gonna, yeah, I guess I have to say it. Yeah, I'm a teacher. I'm gonna sign in with Google. I have to do this. So let's go and start playing because I forgot about signing in before. All right, so I need to open it up. Let's play. It's loading.
The bridges are out, and everyone needs to get to school. Fix the bridge by creating words. First, click on a letter, then move it to the box where it belongs. Spell the word cup.
Okay, you tell me, what should I do?
C.
Ah, great. Ah, C.
G.
Cup.
U.
Because he was telling you as the sound. From you.
P.
And which is P.
Cup.
Cup. It's awesome, isn't it? We have a bridge. We keep on moving.
Spell the word jam.
Jam. What should we do?
J.
Jam.
J.
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 A.
A.
Because it gives the sound which is from A. And then the sound?
M.
J. Spell the word jam.
From the sound
J. Jam.
Jam. Awesome. We got another bridge. Let's keep it moving. We're going. We're gonna stop.
Make the word leg.
Leg. So it's gonna give you the sound.
L. L.
Yes, Arlette. And then? Sound?
E. Make the word leg.
From which letter gives us the sound E? Which letter?
E.
E. And then G?
G.
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 From G.
L.
Yes, Alana.
G.
G.
Leg.
Leg. Yes. We have another bridge. And we keep on moving.
Good work, word builder. The whole gang made it.
Yay! We got to school. Awesome. Awesome. Good. And then you can keep on playing and hopefully you get a lot of fun. It's just not just about practicing just simple things. Have fun with it. And I hope you did, of course. Thanks for the people who's participating. Thank you. So yeah, you can just keep on choosing a different game and keep playing over here and so on. So yeah, I gotta stop this one.
The bridges are out. And
Yes, because I'm just repeating it. So I'm just gonna stop it. And like I said before, you can just go to this webpage and find so many different games. Here we only have the games for word patterns, but if you see, we can have for word families, for blends, for spelling, and then it's going to show you what you have there. You can also go to a library that they do have there, and there is different packages of exercises that you can just decide to practice over there. Because you cannot just wait and see if your professor is going to give you some exercises. You can just go ahead and find places like this one. I'm recommending this one also. And like I said, you're gonna have fun. And for example, Cecilia, you can get, you can sit your child next to you and you both can keep on learning English. Awesome. So let's go back to our slides. I'm gonna go back to project my slides here. So after the example here, let's just say that next time, like I said before, we're going to come and practice stress. I'm going to ask you to start reading about this. I'm going to suggest a few videos for this so that next week you're kind of ready for this. And simple assignments for this construction of phonemes. Like I'm gonna show you, I need to stop sharing this. I'm gonna show you another web page that it is for the yes, over here, for the examples of that you're going to be solving for this homework. So let me just go back because I'm actually on the web page and select this one. The current homework that you're going to be solving, the simple homework that I said and mentioned, is about this. This is a web page that is called the Where Is, and they're just worksheets. If you choose one of the letters, for example, N, it's just going to go ahead and give us an exercise for the sound. And it's going to ask you, where is the sound of N? So for example, it's telling you, say each picture word below. If you hear the N or the N sound, the N sound. At the beginning of the word, circle the first N. If you hear the N sound at the end of the word, circle the N to the right of the picture. Then circle the correct word and print it neatly in the space provided. So, for example, it's telling us, if you hear it at the beginning, for example, for nickel, then it's connected to the first N to the left. That's what it's telling us. And if you hear it in the sound N at the end of the word, then circle the N to the right. So in link is telling us the sound is at the end. That's the whole thing that you have to do here. Then circle the correct word and print it neatly in the space provided. So that's the only thing that you need to do. Is it hard? No. So I'm asking you actually on that assignment. Let me take a look because I did open it before. So I'm gonna ask you for C, D, H, and V. 4. So you're gonna go to this set of worksheets and you're going to answer them. That's all that you need to do. It's an assignment for little kids. So I understand that you can do this and submit it just like that. So a very, very simple assignment. And like you asked me before, when is the exam starting? So like I said, we're gonna finish the class and I'm going to activate the exam and I'm gonna let you, since it was my mistake, I'm gonna let you extra time to solve it. It's just going to be about vocabulary. You're going to read a little bit of the vocabulary and then I'll give you some options. It's about 10 questions, I believe. And yeah, that's it. It's about the manufacturing vocabulary. Why? Because I want you to keep practicing. And the exam is just only one of the things that it is part of the grades for the knowledge. It's not just the exam. It's a combination of different activities, which, okay, the exam is just one thing. So you just need to take it as an extra activity, but not as the simple traditional exams that you take in every class. Okay, so don't stress about it. Don't get stressed. It's not so many pressure about it. Just take your time and hopefully you're gonna solve it, right? I'm even going to give you 2 times in terms of if you get something wrong, you can do it a second time. Okay? Yes.
Okay.
Good. So, all right, class will be dismissed by now. I'm gonna say bye on the video. Bye for the class. Bye.